You ever walk into a room thinking, maybe this time will be different? That's exactly how I felt pulling into the gravel lot outside the lakefront lodge. I hadn't seen most of these folk seniors, but I brought a smile, a bottle of wine, and a little hope, something I hadn't carried with me in a long time. Inside, it was classic Midwest family reunion chaos. Checkered tablecloths, steam rising off foil-covered casseroles, toddlers chasing each other between lawn chairs. Uncle Ronnie was already to beers in. Someone was blasting Fleetwood Mac from a Bluetooth speaker. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel like a stranger. People greeted me with warm hellos. One cousin even offered me a glass of homemade sangria sweet, strong, just the way I remembered from back when life was simpler. And there, across the room, was my dad laughing. Really laughing. Like he remembered how to, like the weight had lifted just for the day. For the first time in years, I thought, maybe this won't be perfect, but maybe no one will cry in the car this year. I had brought a surprise gift, quiet, thoughtful, heartfelt, because that's the kind of daughter I am. I didn't need the spotlight, just a little space to matter. But I didn't know. The spotlight was already pointed somewhere else. I was just settling into the hum of conversation when I spotted my younger sister, Jessica, drifting through the room in a flowy white sundress, barefoot as usual, glowing like a magazine ad for lemon bars and sunshine. She had that effortless charm, the kind that makes people smile before she even speaks. In her hands, she held a picture frame wrapped in soft tissue paper and tied with a gold ribbon. It looked significant. I didn't think too much of it at first. Jessica always had a flair for dramatic, heartfelt gestures. I figured it was some sweet, sentimental token, maybe a scrapbook or one of her handcrafted collages. That was her way. As for me, I'd quietly slid a reservation confirmation under our parents' dinner plates earlier that evening. It was for that fancy French restaurant in town Mom always talked about, but never treated herself to. That's how I'd planned this night. Simple, meaningful, under the radar. A good meal. Some shared memories, a few polite hugs, and, God willing, no tears in the parking lot afterward. But then someone handed Jessica a microphone. I still don't know why. Maybe it was planned. Maybe it was spontaneous. But the moment she tapped it and said, I didn't really plan to say anything. I knew we were in trouble. Because that phrase always means the opposite. She'd practiced. I could hear it. In the lilt of her voice, the way she laughed softly, like she was embarrassed but delighted to have the floor. She turned to our parents, holding out the frame like a prize on a game show. Just a little something for the two people who've always been there for me. Mom gasped in that performative way she does when she knows everyone's watching. The room leaned in as they peeled back the tissue paper. Inside was a photo collage. Birthdays, beach trips, snow angels in the front yard. Selfies on the porch with glasses of iced tea. All smiles. All sunshine. All Jessica. And Mom and Dad, of course. Not a single photo of me. Not one. Not even in the background. I felt my breath hitch just slightly. Not enough for anyone to notice, but enough that I felt it in my chest. I looked down at my sangria, swirling the fruit around with my straw, suddenly aware that my name, my face, my existence had no place in that frame. Then it happened. Mom stood up, glass in hand. She held it high, smiling at Jessica like she'd hung the moon. This, she said, voice full and proud, this is the daughter who's always loved us. A few people clapped. Someone whispered awe. My cousin Rebecca even dabbed at her eyes. And then Mom said it. The other one, she's never lifted a finger. The air shifted. The room didn't fall silent, it fell still. A fork dropped. Someone coughed. You know that moment when everyone hears something but pretends they didn't? That was it. Frozen smiles. Eyes darting down to plates. I didn't look at anyone. I didn't want to see the pity or the confusion or worse, the agreement. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask what on earth she thought I'd been doing for the past decade. I just picked up my bag, walked to the door, and let it shut behind me. Not a single person followed. Not Jessica. Not mom. Not even dad. It wasn't the words themselves that hurt most, it was the ease with which they were said, and the ease with which everyone accepted them. Like it was some long-known truth, finally said aloud. As I walked to my car, keys trembling just slightly in my hand, I realized something. I hadn't just been left out of a photo frame. I'd been erased. And this time, I wasn't going to pretend I didn't notice. I didn't slam the door. I didn't curse anyone out. I just walked out the lodge, down the gravel path, into the quiet hum of crickets and faraway boat motors humming across the lake. The night air was cooler than I remembered, or maybe it was just the heat draining from my face. Either way, I kept walking until I reached my car. I sat for a moment, with the engine off, fingers resting on the steering wheel like I'd forgotten how to drive, and still no one followed me. That's the part I'll never forget. Not the words, not the toast, not even the silence after. It was the stillness inside that lodge, the quiet agreement that what Mom said must have been true, because no one stood up. No one said, "That's not right." Not even Dad. I drove the 2 hours home in total silence. No radio. No podcast. Just the tires humming and the occasional highway sign glowing in the dark. But inside my head, something was happening. A slow, clear list began forming. How many mortgage payments had I quietly sent when they were short? How many utility bills had I auto-paid because they forgot? How many times did I work overtime skipping birthdays, holidays just to keep their lights on? 9 years. 9 years of picking up the slack. And apparently, I had never lifted a finger. I didn't cry. I didn't spiral. What I felt wasn't anger. It was something cleaner, sharper, like clarity with steel edges. So I acted on it. That night, I opened my laptop and canceled every single account I'd been paying under my name. The mortgage auto payment, gone. The electric bill tied to my credit card, deleted. The gas card, snipped and trashed. The grocery delivery account, the Wi-Fi, the emergency-only family credit line that mysteriously always included concert tickets, all closed. Even the dental bill due Monday, the one Mom claimed was urgent every 6 months, I let it default. I wasn't making a scene. I wasn't trying to punish anyone. I was just done pretending I didn't exist. When I woke up the next morning, there were 38 missed calls. The first few were from Mom, then Dad, then the most impressive part 14 from Jessica. Jessica, who hadn't texted me in months unless she needed help with her taxes, was suddenly calling like a telemarketer on a bonus deadline. I sat on the edge of my kitchen counter, sipping coffee while my phone buzzed. I didn't answer, at least not at first, but I'll admit, curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to hear what they'd say, how they'd open the conversation after what happened. So when call number 39 rang in, I picked up. "Oh, thank God," Jessica said immediately. "We didn't know where you went." "I'm great," I said, calm as ever. "Well, we kind of have a situation," she stammered. "We showed up for the boat tour this morning, the one for the whole group, and they said it was canceled. Something about a declined card." "Yeah," I said casually. "That card was mine. I canceled it." Silence. "Wait, what? Why would you?" "Because Mom stood up in front of 52 people and said I'd never lifted a finger," I replied. "So I figured it's time I stopped lifting one." She went quiet again. I could almost hear her blinking. Jessica finally asked, "Wait, did you cancel everything?" "The cabin was in my name," I said. "So were the group dinner reservations, the boat, the rental van. But we don't have a way back." "Well," I said, "you're the daughter who always loved them. I'm sure you'll figure something out." And I hung up. I didn't feel triumphant. No music swelled in the background. No deep sense of revenge or pride washed over me. I just felt still. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one holding everything up. And for once, I wasn't lifting a single finger. That afternoon, I watched the alerts start rolling in. Failed payment. Transfer declined. Account closed. One after another, like dominoes. Quiet little digital echoes of something I had already decided in my heart. I wasn't checking out of cruelty. This wasn't about revenge. It was about something far simpler. If I was going to be treated like a ghost, then I was going to stop acting like a lifeline. They didn't know how much I had been covering all these years. Not really. And I never made a show of it. Never threw it in their faces. I never once said, "Hey, that trip you just took, I paid for that." Or, "You know that dental emergency you always seem to have around tax season. You're welcome." Asterisk, I never needed applause. I just wanted to matter. But clearly, a photo collage and a well-timed toast held more weight than a decade of quiet sacrifice still. I knew how this would go. They would panic. And they did. By Sunday morning, the bank flagged to failed login attempts on the joint household account I'd set up years ago. When Mom's checkbook kept accidentally bouncing. That afternoon, they tried the emergency credit card. Blocked. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. That night around 9:30, there was a knock on my door. I stood still in the hallway, back flat to the wall, unsure if I wanted to be seen. I hadn't expected it so soon. Then I heard her voice. "Lauren." I opened the door. My mother stood on the porch in one of those thin cardigans she always wears when she wants to look delicate. Her makeup was gone. Her hair windblown. Dad was behind her, arms folded. Not angry, just present. "Can we come?" And she asked. "No," I said calmly. "But we can talk here." She looked around like she was embarrassed to be having this conversation on my porch instead of in my kitchen. "We just wanted to clear the air." "Ah," I said. "What happened at the reunion?" "That wasn't what I meant," she began. "You mean when you told a room full of people that I've never lifted a finger?" She winced. It came out wrong. Jessica had just given us that beautiful frame and everyone was looking. She's been having a hard time. You know how she struggles. "She always struggles," I said, flatly. "And I always pay for it." Silence. "I was just trying to be nice," she said. It was a moment. "No, it was a choice," I said. And for the first time, I let the number slip out. "I've spent over $150. Zero on you over the last 15 years. Mortgage, groceries, utilities, dentist bills. Even the credit card Jessica maxed out after she quit her job to try candle making." Her face went still. Dad blinked slowly, like he'd just heard something he wasn't prepared to process. "We never asked you to," he finally said. "No." I nodded. "You just let me." Year after year, there was another long silence, the kind that weighs more than yelling. Mom looked at her shoes. Dad shifted on his feet. "So, what now?" "This is about money," she asked. "No," I said. "It's about standing in front of 50 people and pretending I didn't exist. And then expecting me to keep pretending that's okay. But we didn't think you'd take it so personally." I gave a small laugh. "Well, here we are." She softened her voice, shifted her tone like she always did when she wanted to reset the room. "We just want to fix this. We love you." Then, "Maybe," I said, "you should have said that instead of rewriting the last 15 years of your life with a photo collage." She blinked fast, maybe to hold something back. Jessica hadn't come. Not yet. But I knew she would. Because suddenly, for the first time in her life, she was going to be asked to carry something. I closed the door before they could say another word. Inside, the house was still, peaceful. The weight I'd been carrying, it wasn't gone, but it had finally shifted off my back. And for the first time in a long time, I slept without checking my phone. It didn't take long for Jessica to show up. 2 days after Mom and Dad stood on my porch, she rang the bell twice, fast like she was in a rush, or like maybe she thought if she rang it quickly, I'd open the door before thinking twice. When I answered, she didn't wait for an invitation. She just breezed in like it was still 2011 and she was borrowing my sweater without asking. She dropped her bag on the counter and spun around. "Do you know what you're doing to them?" she asked, like she'd caught me committing a felony. I leaned against the fridge and crossed my arms. "You'll have to be more specific." "They're freaking out," she said. "The mortgage is due in 3 days. The gas bill came back unpaid. The grocery order got declined. Mom's talking about having to sell furniture." I raised an eyebrow, and she stared at me like I'd grown horns. "You didn't even warn them. You mean after Mom stood up in front of 52 people and said I'd never done anything for them?" I asked. Jessica rolled her eyes. She got caught up in the moment. I smiled, cool and even, then let the moment pay the bills. She crossed her arms, but I could see it, the panic behind her eyes. The kind that only settles in when someone realizes the backup plan they always counted on isn't coming. "You're being spiteful," she said. "No," I replied. "I'm being factual. You all said I never helped. I'm simply adjusting my behavior to match that story." Jessica paused, like her brain was running through every angle. Then she said, "They don't have the money." I nodded. "You live with them." She blinked. "You don't pay rent. You don't cover utilities. You don't help with the groceries. But you had time to make photo collages and post about self-care Sundays, right? That's not fair," she muttered. "Neither was the speech," I said. Jessica looked like she wanted to scream, but even she knew it wouldn't help. "There are parents," she said, quieter now. "You're just going to let them struggle." I didn't flinch. "No, I'm going to let you step up. After all, you're the daughter who always loved them, right?" There it was, a flicker, just a twitch in the corner of her mouth. The mask cracking for the first time. She wasn't just Jessica, the golden child. She was a woman in her 30s staring down a financial reality she'd never had to face before. "If they need help," I said gently, "then get a job." Jessica turned and walked out. No goodbye, no apology, no clever comeback. Just a quiet slam of the front door that shook the kitchen window. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Not because anyone had changed. Not because I'd gotten some tearful confession or a long overdue thank you. But because for the first time in years, I wasn't the one holding everything together. The next morning, my phone was oddly quiet. No texts, no calls, just peace. I made breakfast, read the paper, and even walked down to the mailbox instead of checking it from the app. But then, it began again. Online. Mom posted a photo of smiling group shot from the reunion, with the caption, "Family means everything," even when some people forget that. No one said my name, but they didn't have to. Everyone who'd been there remembered. Everyone saw the toast. Everyone knew the story. And soon, the comments rolled in. She left because she was embarrassed. It wasn't even rude, just honest. If you can't handle the truth, maybe look in the mirror. Jessica liked 3 of them. Mom hearted another. I didn't say a word. Not at first. But I was done staying invisible. And if they wanted to talk about truth, then it was time to show some receipts. I wasn't planning to respond. For a while, I just watched it unfold, the passive-aggressive posts, the vague book captions about loyalty and forgiveness, the not-so-subtle digs. I even got a text from a distant cousin saying, "I heard you stormed out because your mom said Jessica was the good daughter." That. True. And still I said nothing. But then someone, some second cousin I hadn't seen since 2004, commented under Mom's post, She was always kind of cold, right? Not really involved. And my mother liked it. That did it. You can call me a lot of things private. Sure, quiet. Absolutely. But cold, not involved. From the woman whose mortgage I paid for nearly a decade, who used the emergency credit card in my name for 4 straight years and never asked how it got paid off. I took a deep breath, opened my laptop, and got to work. No snark, no emotional captions, just the facts. I posted a single public update with nothing but screenshots, bank statements, wire transfer receipts, confirmation emails, old text messages confirming money sent and bills handled. I kept it clean. Just numbers and proof dot at the bottom. I included a running total in bold. $48,600 toward the mortgage, $35,760 in household utilities, $21, $240 in groceries, $780 in medical copays, and prescriptions, $6,850 when the roof caved in during that storm, in $201,817. $950 for Jessica's grad school tuition when she dropped out 6 months later, $1. $810 for a car transmission repair last winter, $2,300 for a canceled family vacation deposit, and a dozen smaller things I'd long stopped tracking. Total $147,290. I didn't tag anyone, didn't mention names. I simply made the post public and logged off by morning. Mom's original post was gone. So were a few others she'd made in the following days. I figured she either realized the damage or someone finally told her to stop digging. Later that afternoon, I got a text from Aunt Sharon. I had no idea you'd done all that. You've always been so quiet. From my cousin James, that's insane. If I were you, I'd never speak to them again. From my mother, nothing. But from Jessica, we need to talk. The next time I saw her, she looked like a shell of the person who'd walked through my front door a week earlier. The designer handbag was gone. Her eyes were hollow. She looked thinner, paler, like she'd just come back from a very long, very difficult week. She held a reusable grocery bag with off-brand soup cans, a few rolls of toilet paper, and some cheap ramen. Not a fresh vegetable in sight. Can we talk? She asked. Hello to you too, I said, stepping aside. They made me get a job, she said, like she was reporting a personal tragedy. Welcome to adulthood, I said, not unkindly. They said I had to start helping, she went on, placing the bag on my counter. Because you're gone. Because you were the one who made everything work. Apparently. Her voice cracked on that last word. I looked at her, really looked. For the first time, I saw it. The weight of real life settling in on her shoulders. The late nights, the unpaid bills, the responsibility she'd never truly understood until now. They said that? I asked. Not like that. But yeah, they're struggling. I nodded. They made their choice, Jess, at the reunion. In front of everyone. You were the daughter who always loved them. I didn't know Mom was going to say that, she whispered. And you didn't correct her, I said. I was caught off guard. No, I said. You liked it. Asterisk, she didn't deny it. They need help, she pleaded. Then help them, I replied. I can't afford everything. I tilted my head. Try harder. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just walked out, closing the door softly behind her. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt seen. A week later, they all came back. Not just Jessica this time. Mom, Dad, and Jessica, standing together at the bottom of my porch steps, like 3 teenagers waiting to be called into the principal's office. They didn't knock, just stood there, awkward and hesitant, pretending. They didn't see me glance out the window as I was folding laundry. For a moment, I considered pretending I wasn't home. But something told me I needed to hear what they had to say, not for them, but for me. So I opened the door. Just a crack. Mom spoke first, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "We're sorry." I stepped onto the porch but didn't invite them in. "Go on." She looked older than I remembered. Her face was bare, tired. Her cardigan hung loose, like she'd lost weight. Dad didn't meet my eyes. Jessica, for once, didn't say anything at all. "We shouldn't have said what we said," Mom continued. "It was stupid. We didn't think." I gave a small nod. "No, you did think. You just didn't think it would cost you anything." Her lips pressed together. Even she couldn't argue with that. "It was the moment," Jessica added, barely above a whisper. "You know how Mom gets." I turned to her, "And you liked it. You liked being the golden child in front of everyone. And when she said it, you stood there and let her." Jessica didn't deny it this time. Her eyes dropped to the wood porch beneath her. Mom took a shaky breath. "We didn't mean it." I tilted my head slightly. "Doesn't matter now. You made a choice. Publicly." Dad finally spoke. "Just one sentence. You need to understand." "No." I interrupted. "You need to understand." And I let the words fall. "You stood in front of 50 people and erased me while I was still paying your mortgage, your power, your internet, your everything." I felt the air change. Like the truth had finally filled the space they had all carefully avoided for years. "I paid nearly $150,000 to be invisible," I said. "And now you get to live with that double quotes silence." Mom swallowed. Dad looked away. Jessica stared at her shoes like they might offer her a way out of the moment. I waited for it, the part where they cried, or apologized, or offered some grand gesture. But there was nothing. Just 3 people finally staring down a truth they'd refused to see until the support beams gave out. And then I said the last thing I knew they didn't want to hear. "I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done." And I turned and closed the door. No yelling. No tears. Just the sound of the latch clicking into place. And behind it, a woman who had finally chosen herself. In the weeks that followed, the fallout began. Jessica moved out. Word was, she'd lasted longer than anyone expected. But in the end, the late night calls, the unpaid bills, and the pressure finally broke her down. She found a small rental an hour away and didn't leave a forwarding address. A few months later, the same house I'd helped them keep afloat for nearly a decade, went up for sale. I didn't go to the open house. I didn't drive by. I didn't comment when someone tagged me in the listing online. They took what they could get and moved into a rental across town. My cousin said the walls were thin and the lights flickered when the microwave ran too long. I didn't respond. Not because I was bitter, because I was done. Some people believe family is forever, but others, we learn the hard way. Forever has limits when love isn't mutual. The truth is, I never went back. Not for birthdays. Not for the holidays. Not even when my mother had a brief hospital stay that Jessica texted me about with just 3 words. "They need you." But I didn't respond. Because when someone shows you who they are not once, but over and over, it stops being a misunderstanding. It becomes a pattern. And eventually, even the most loyal heart learns the cost of staying. From what I heard, they never really recovered from losing the house. The same house I'd kept out of foreclosure for years. The one I quietly saved behind the scenes while Jessica called herself the emotional backbone of the family. The one where I used to help them decorate the porch for fall, even when I had to drive 2 hours to do it. They sold it quickly, took a cash offer, moved into a small 2-bedroom rental on the edge of town. My cousin drove past once and said, "It looked like a place you live when you're waiting for life to start over. Only life doesn't always give you that chance." Word spread. Everyone couldn't believe what had happened. Some said I was heartless. Others said I should have spoken up sooner. But none of them, not one, ever asked what it had been like to give and give for years, and still be told in front of 50 people that I had never lifted a finger. They missed that part. Because people only notice when the lights go out. not when someone's been paying the electric bill quietly, month after month. Jessica and I haven't spoken since the day she dropped off those canned goods and ramen. I don't know where she lives now. I assume she's figuring it out, the same way I once had to, only without the safety net I became for all of them. And my parents, they haven't called. Not directly. Occasionally, I'll get a forwarded email from a cousin. Something about how mom wishes things had gone differently. How dad misses having everyone under one roof. There's never an apology. Just regret, dressed in nostalgia. But I don't need their nostalgia. I needed their respect. I needed their presence. I needed them to look up just once and see who'd been holding the walls together all those years. Instead, they handed Jessica the microphone. And they lost me. The strange part? I'm not angry anymore. Not even disappointed. What I feel is peace. Quiet, clean, undeniable peace. I no longer check my phone waiting for a thank you. I no longer calculate how much of my paycheck I need to siphon off for someone else's groceries. I no longer replay old conversations hoping they'll end differently. I don't need them to rewrite the story. I wrote my own ending. Some nights, I sit out on my back deck, nothing fancy, just a couple of chairs and a string of solar light sand. I breathe in the stillness. I listen to the cicadas. I sip my tea. I remember what it felt like to spend years proving my worth to people who had already decided not to see it. And I remind myself, sometimes walking away isn't the hardest thing. Staying and being invisible is. So yes, maybe some will say I went too far, and others will say not far enough. But I know this, for the first time in my life, I'm not holding anyone else's weight. And that, my friend, is the definition of freedom. There comes a time in every life when silence speaks louder than loyalty. I spent years believing love meant sacrifice. That family was something you carried even when it got heavy, even when they forgot to say thank you. But the truth is, love isn't measured by how much you give, it's measured by whether anyone notices that you do. They didn't notice. Not until I stopped. And when the lights didn't come on, the groceries didn't arrive, the credit card declined. Suddenly, the daughter they ignored became the one they needed. But by then, it was too late. I didn't walk away to punish them. I walked away to protect what little I had left of myself. Because sometimes peace isn't found in fixing the relationship. Sometimes peace is choosing yourself after everyone else has chosen someone else. Family doesn't mean tolerating pain without limits. Real love is seen, felt, and reciprocated. If you're constantly proving your worth to people who refuse to recognize it, it's not love. It's emotional labor. And you deserve better, even from your own blood. Has there ever been a moment when you realized it was time to stop carrying the weight for others? Share your story in the comments. We read everyone. And if this story moved you, hit that subscribe button for more powerful, real-life reflections that remind us we're not alone. Because healing starts with honesty. And sometimes with walking away.